Beneath the golden sands of Egypt lies a world shrouded in mystery, a civilization that built wonders beyond comprehension and left behind clues, fragmented, forgotten, and fiercely debated. For centuries, archaeologists and historians have tried to piece together the truth behind the legends. But for every question answered, more emerge. What lies behind the hidden chambers of Tutankhamun's burial? Where is Cleopatra's lost tomb? And what secrets slumber beneath the paws of the Sphinx? Some discoveries raise eyebrows. Others challenge everything we thought we knew. From the mythical library beneath the Sphinx, to the elusive burial of Alexander the Great, to strange fossils in the desert and technologies that seem out of time. This is not just history. This is a puzzle 5,000 years in the making. Join us on a journey into the heart of ancient Egypt, where the line between myth and reality is thinner than ever imagined. Beneath the waves, the forgotten city of Egypt's vanished gateway. As the sun dips low, casting elongated shadows across the desert's ancient stones, our attention shifts, not toward the sands of time, but into the depths of the sea. Just off today's Alexandrian shoreline, hidden beneath the glittering surface of the Mediterranean, rests a city claimed by the ages. Once a crucial hub of Egyptian power and foreign diplomacy, it was said that no outsider could step onto Egypt's soil without first crossing through this port's gates. Now, the city slumbers, its walls shattered, its splendor forgotten beneath the currents. This is the lost metropolis of Thonis Heracleion, a name long forgotten by the world. In the ancient past, it bore two identities. The Egyptians called it Thonis, while to the Greeks it was known as Heracleion. It was a thriving harbor town, a vital connection between the Nile and the Mediterranean, flourishing around the 8th century BCE. This city wasn't just a trade center, it was a spiritual stronghold where monumental temples paid tribute to revered gods, including Khonsu and Heracles, the Greek demigod whose mythic steps were believed to have once graced its ground. Ships from across the known world gathered in its bustling ports, exchanging not only cargo and coins, but legends and beliefs. Thonis Heracleion became a crucial thread in the web of ancient Mediterranean culture. Then, without any clear warning, it was gone. For generations, its tale survived only in scattered writings and fading folklore. Ancient sources recalled a magnificent city lost to the sea, but no physical proof remained. Over time, maps changed, memories dimmed, and scholars began to doubt if the city had ever truly existed. That changed in the year 2000. French marine archaeologist Frank Godiot and his exploration team, armed with advanced sonar technology, scanned the seabed near Egypt's Abu Qir Bay. What they uncovered amazed the world. Immense statues, broken temple columns, and the skeletal remains of a city lost to the ages, submerged and sealed in sand. Bit by bit, the submerged city of Thonis Heracleion revealed itself. Scattered across the ocean floor lay enormous stone fragments, some weighing more than 50 tons. Rising from the murky deep came the figure of Hapi, the god of the Nile's fertility, his face tranquil despite the centuries he had spent beneath the sea. There were sphinxes, inscribed stones, ceremonial relics, even ancient vessels, all astonishingly preserved, suspended in time. Together, they whispered a tale of magnificence and abrupt demise. But what caused its downfall? Scientists believe the city was built atop fragile, unstable ground, a delicate mix of clay and sand. Earthquakes and climbing sea levels likely triggered a process called soil liquefaction, where solid ground suddenly behaves like liquid, causing buildings to collapse without warning. Combined with natural calamities, the gradual weakening of Egypt's political and religious structures may have sealed its doom. Yet not all questions have answers. Why do some statues lie far from their presumed original sites, as if cast aside by unimaginable force? Was the destruction a slow, creeping erosion, or a sudden, violent catastrophe? Could an earthquake or tidal wave have struck a fatal blow? Some historians connect the city's demise to the waning days of Egypt's late dynastic era, marked by internal divisions and waves of foreign incursions. Others argue that as religious centers shifted elsewhere, Thonis Heraclion's spiritual role faded, prompting its eventual abandonment before nature took over. And then there are the legends. Some liken Thonis Heraclion to Atlantis, a symbol of unchecked ambition, of civilizations rising too high and being swallowed whole. A warning, perhaps, from the past. What has been recovered paints a picture not of a fallen backwater, but of a cosmopolitan center where cultures blended. Greek and Egyptian art and architecture merge on sculptures and altars. Inscriptions reveal legal codes, commercial treaties, and joint religious rites, signs of a city that stood at the crossroads of gods and empires. Even now, vast portions of the city remain buried beneath the sea. Thick layers of silt keep ancient structures and artifacts hidden in darkness. Excavation is slow and delicate, bound by both technical limits and the need to preserve these fragile remnants of history. Every artifact that emerges reveals new insights into the city's rituals, social order, and its role in ancient international exchange. Standing at the water's edge in Abu Qir Bay today, it's nearly impossible to envision the life that once bustled here. Merchants from the Aegean calling out in noisy markets, priests solemnly moving sacred relics during grand ceremonies, sailors asking for the Nile god's blessing before setting sail upstream. All of it vanished, but not erased. As we stare across the gentle waves where Thonis Heraclion once stood proud, one can't help but ask, what else lies waiting below? What untold stories remain sealed in the mud and salt? What truths are preserved in the wreckage of a city the world forgot? Perhaps, just beyond our reach, in those forgotten depths, lie the final pieces of a greater historical puzzle, waiting for those patient and curious enough to uncover them. The sea may have claimed Thonis Heraclion, but history is still listening. Echoes of an ancient ocean, unveiling the Valley of the Whales. Not all secrets of Egypt lie hidden in pyramids or buried in royal tombs. Some mysteries stretch across barren landscapes, far beyond the fertile arms of the Nile, into deserts where the silence is profound and the heat unforgiving. Travel southwest of Cairo, deep into the vast wilderness, and you'll find a land unlike any other, Wadi al-Haytham, the Valley of the Whales. It is here, among wind-carved cliffs and sun-baked sands, that the earth speaks of a chapter older than history itself, a time long before mankind, empires, or even memory. At first sight, the terrain seems lifeless. Endless ridges and ochre-colored hills roll out under a merciless sun. The rocks appear sculpted by ancient hands, but nature alone shaped them. The wind hums softly, snaking through natural corridors carved by erosion. But then, scattered among the dunes, bones, fossils, fragments of enormous skeletons jutting out of the sand, like relics from forgotten legends. These are the remains of creatures that once ruled an ocean long gone, great prehistoric whales whose bones have been bleached by time and sun. Some reach over 60 feet in length. Massive spines and curved ribs arch skyward, still echoing the shape of their once fluid motion through warm, shallow seas. It's hard to fathom, but where now there is dust and heat, there was once ocean, a teeming marine world blanketing what is now desert. But these aren't modern whales. They're ancient ancestors, Basilosaurus and Dorudon, transitional forms caught between two worlds. They still bore traces of hind limbs, evidence of their evolutionary journey from land-dwelling mammals to ocean-dwelling giants. Their bones mark a pivotal moment in the great story of life on Earth, a moment where evolution paused just long enough to leave us a message in stone. Wadi al-Haytham is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, renowned for its unmatched collection of fossils that offer a window into a world lost to time. Yet, even in this natural archive, unanswered questions linger. Why did so many of these whales perish in this one location? What series of events could lead to such a massive, concentrated graveyard. Scientists suggest that the area was once a calm coastal lagoon, perhaps a breeding ground or feeding site. Shifting seas, changing currents, or tectonic shifts may have trapped the animals, preserving them in soft sediments that later fossilized. But still, the sheer number of skeletons and the eerie completeness of many of them raise eyebrows. Some believe sudden environmental changes may have caused mass strandings. Others consider instinctive migrations gone awry, ending tragically in what had become a death trap as the ocean receded. Then there are the more speculative theories. Could ancient changes in Earth's magnetic field or cataclysmic cosmic phenomena have disrupted the navigation of these early whales? Might drastic, rapid climate shifts have remade the ecosystem in ways we still don't fully understand? Whatever the truth, it lies buried, layered in stone, shrouded in sand. To walk through Wadi al-Haytham is to step into a realm beyond comprehension. The ground is gritty underfoot, scattered with fossil fragments and ancient shell debris. Carefully preserved skeletons are protected by conservation teams, but their power is undiminished. They're not just bones, they're time travelers. To stand beside the winding fossil of a basilosaurus, its serpentine body stretching across the desert floor, is to feel dwarfed, not just by its size, but by the scale of time it represents. These beings lived 40 to 50 million years ago, long before pyramids rose, before hieroglyphs were carved, before kings ruled the Nile. They swam through Egypt's ancient seas. Now, under the scorching sun, they lie in perfect stillness, whispering of an Earth that once was. Their presence begs a bigger question. If a seafaring world could survive in stone beneath the desert for tens of millions of years, what else might lie hidden beneath Egypt's sands? What remnants, fossilized, forgotten, or yet undiscovered, wait for the right moment to emerge? Wadi al-Haytham reminds us that Egypt's enigmas are not confined to monuments or mythology. They are etched into the earth itself, preserved in fossils and geological records that speak not of pharaohs, but of forces far older. Forces that shaped life before we ever knew how to write it down. The Valley of the Whales is more than a fossil bed. It is a portal between epochs, between land and sea, the ancient and the eternal, the known and the unknowable. It invites us to listen, to wonder, to see the past not as history, but as a living force beneath our feet. As the wind continues to sweep the sands, uncovering bones while burying others, we're left with a haunting thought. How many other stories has the earth told, only to have them vanish, eroded by time, waiting patiently for someone to listen again? Wadi al-Haytham still speaks. The question is, are we ready to hear it? Beneath the gaze, the enigma of the Sphinx's secret vault, as the final reverberations of the mysterious sea peoples dissolve into the broader collapse of ancient civilizations, our path leads us back to one of the most iconic and puzzling monuments ever constructed, the Great Sphinx of Giza. This silent guardian, ancient beyond reckoning, peers endlessly toward the eastern horizon, its expression stoic and unknowable. Hewn directly from the bedrock of the Giza Plateau, the Sphinx, part lion, part man, stretches over 240 feet in length, its form weathered by millennia of wind, sand, and time's slow erosion. What remains of its face once wore vibrant colors, long since faded into legend. But this colossus is more than just a relic. It is a puzzle in stone. And some believe that buried beneath its massive paws lies one of the greatest concealed treasures of the ancient world, a lost archive of knowledge known as the Hall of Records. This idea, though often labeled fringe, is not merely a modern invention. Traces of such a legend appear in ancient lore, medieval Arab manuscripts, and even the curious claims of early European travelers. The concept re-emerged forcefully in the late 20th century, as independent researchers and esoteric thinkers speculated that deep beneath the monument rests a vault, sealed for thousands of years, holding the lost wisdom of a forgotten civilization. Some even suggest these were survivors of a sunken age known only through myth. But is there any validity to these astonishing claims? In the early 1990s, seismic studies were carried out around the Sphinx. The results revealed anomalies, irregularities in the rock suggesting hollow spaces or disturbed ground beneath and around the monument. These unusual readings sparked speculation. Were they natural cracks, ancient tunnels for maintenance, or could they be entrances to something far more profound? Conventional Egyptologists urge skepticism. According to established views, these subsurface features are nothing more than natural voids or faults common in sedimentary rock like limestone. No artifacts, no inscriptions, no direct physical evidence has ever surfaced to confirm the existence of a hidden chamber beneath the Sphinx. The Sphinx itself, according to mainstream dating, was likely built during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, around 2500 BCE. This timeline places it firmly within the known dynastic history of Egypt, far too late, critics argue, to be a vestige of some earlier lost civilization. Yet, uncertainties persist. The erosion patterns etched into the Sphinx's body tell a different story. Some geologists note the deep, wave-like grooves as more consistent with water erosion than mere sand and wind, suggesting that the statue may have faced centuries of heavy rainfall. If so, this could push its construction date back as far as 7000 BCE, to a time when the Giza Plateau saw a wetter climate. Such a radical redating challenges accepted timelines and hints that the Sphinx may have been inherited by later Egyptians, its original builders and purpose forgotten, woven into pharaonic culture as myth rather than history. And if this were true, what might still lie beneath it? Theories linking the Hall of Records to Plato's myth of Atlantis suggest that survivors of a drowned civilization may have fled to Egypt, bringing their advanced knowledge of astronomy, architecture, and metaphysics. That legacy, they propose, was safeguarded in a hidden vault beneath the sands, awaiting rediscovery by a future age. The hall in these visions is a treasure trove not of gold, but of understanding, ancient texts, lost technologies, relics that could rewrite the human story. Despite the allure, no official excavation has uncovered such a chamber. Excavations around the Sphinx are strictly limited, partly to protect the monument's fragile condition, and partly due to political and bureaucratic control over heritage sites. As a result, the Sphinx continues to guard its secrets in silence. Standing today at its feet, with the mighty pyramid rising behind like a frozen beacon, one cannot help but feel the centuries pressing down. The desert hums with the heat of the sun, and the air seems to carry whispers, forgotten dreams, ancient questions, unspoken truths. Its face, worn but noble, still watches the dawn, a symbol of rebirth, of cycles, of time's endless turning. And though it invites curiosity, it offers no answers. Was the Sphinx merely a royal monument, a symbol of divine kingship? Or is it far older, an inheritance from a civilization lost to the sands? Does a chamber of secrets slumber beneath its paws? Or are the real mysteries buried in the parts of history we've yet to remember? Mainstream archaeology demands evidence, and rightly so. But the enduring fascination with the hidden library touches something deeper within us. A longing for a time when myth and truth were not opposites, when ancient knowledge was revered, and when the world still held its mysteries close. In the end, the Sphinx remains what it has always been, a riddle, timeless, watchful, enduring. And as the sun dips below the horizon and casts the desert in shadow once more, we are left with a single question. If the Hall of Records exists, will we ever be ready to find it? Or will it remain as eternal and elusive as the gaze of the Sphinx itself? The vanishing tomb of Egypt's final queen, where the mighty Nile spills into the Mediterranean, a city once stood as the jewel of ancient civilization, Alexandria. Its marble pillars gleamed in the sun, grand temples honored gods now forgotten, and the towering lighthouse, one of the seven wonders, cast its beam across distant seas. This was a center of learning, wealth, and enigma, and somewhere within its long-buried past may lie one of history's most elusive relics, The lost tomb of Queen Cleopatra. Cleopatra VII, the last monarch of ancient Egypt, continues to captivate the world with her brilliance, political acumen, and enduring mystique. She influenced the course of empires through cunning alliances and devastating wars. Though her life is richly documented, endlessly examined, and romanticized, her burial place remains lost, a vanished chapter at the edge of memory. According to classical writers like Plutarch, Cleopatra was interred beside her lover, the Roman general Mark Antony, following their suicides in 30 BC. It's said that Octavian, soon to become Emperor Augustus, granted Cleopatra's wish to be buried with Antony. But beyond these sparse, ancient references, the trail goes cold. No verified tomb, no carved monument, only silence where there should be stone. Many believe Cleopatra's final resting place lies close to Alexandria, potentially buried beneath the modern city itself. Over centuries, earthquakes, tidal waves, and the slow descent of the land into the sea have redrawn the coastline. Entire quarters of ancient Alexandria now lie submerged beneath Mediterranean waters. Could her tomb be beneath the waves, sealed in a drowned district of a sunken city? In recent years, archaeological efforts have rekindled hope. At Taposiris Magna, a temple complex just outside Alexandria, excavations have uncovered tantalizing fragments, hidden chambers, Greco-Egyptian statuary, gilded relics, and even mummies with golden tongues, possibly meant to speak in the afterlife. Some scholars speculate that Cleopatra, embracing both Egyptian and Hellenistic customs, may have selected such a sacred and secluded site for her burial, a symbolic fusion of cultures in death as in life. But no definitive proof has surfaced. No inscription naming her, no royal cartouche, no unmistakable clue that ties the tomb to Egypt's last queen. Could the tomb have been deliberately concealed, designed to ensure privacy or protect her remains from Roman hands? Or perhaps it was simply lost to time, consumed by fire, flood, or conquest, another casualty of Alexandria's turbulent history. Others suggest more radical possibilities. Some fringe theories propose that Cleopatra was not buried in Egypt at all, that loyalists smuggled her body away during Rome's takeover, hiding her in a distant sanctuary. Still others believe Cleopatra, deeply versed in ritual and cosmic symbolism, may have crafted a final resting place aligned with stars, sacred lands, or long-lost gods. Despite all the digs, debates, and discoveries, the Egyptian sands remain stubbornly mute. There's no flash of royal treasure, no weather-worn sarcophagus, no glyphs etched with her name. Instead, we are left with fragments, lines from ancient historians, shattered ruins, whispers on the sea breeze. And the question endures. Where is Cleopatra? Is she hidden beneath submerged Alexandria, waiting for technology to uncover her? Or buried inland, beneath forgotten temples and shifting desert dunes? Or has her tomb been erased entirely, leaving nothing but myth? The earth turns, the sea reclaims, the past fades, and Cleopatra drifts further into legend. Perhaps one day, by chance or design, the veil will lift. Or perhaps that was her wish all along, to vanish into eternity, not just as a queen of Egypt, but as a sovereign of mystery, untouchable by time. The solar boats of Giza, Pharaoh's vessels to eternity. As our journey drifts from the mysteries of Cleopatra's lost tomb, we return to the Giza Plateau, where the towering pyramids dominate the horizon, monuments so familiar, they seem almost eternal. Yet, beneath their shadow lie secrets just as profound as the pyramids themselves. In the pale glow of dawn, Giza appears frozen in time. The colossal pyramids rise in sharp silhouette against the golden sand, their weathered stones casting long, angular shadows. Tourists follow ancient causeways in awe, rarely aware that beneath their very steps, relics of sacred purpose remain buried, not carved from stone, but crafted from wood. Hidden in sealed pits near the Great Pyramid rest the solar boats of the pharaohs, vessels built not to sail the Nile, but the skies. The story unfolds in 1954, when Egyptian archaeologist Kamel el-Malik uncovered an astonishing secret near the base of the Pyramid of Khufu, the largest of the three Great Pyramids. Beneath a covering of massive limestone blocks, undisturbed for over 4,000 years, lay the disassembled remains of a full-sized cedarwood ship. Measuring over 140 feet long, this ancient boat was exquisitely preserved by the dry desert sands. Its planks were lashed together using an age-old rope stitching technique, a method predating even dynastic Egypt. When it was meticulously reconstructed, it became clear. This was no simple vessel. This was a solar bark, a divine ship meant to transport the soul of the pharaoh through the heavens, traveling alongside Ra, the sun god, on his eternal journey across the sky. But why build such a masterpiece only to bury it? And why hide it so carefully beneath the pyramid? The traditional explanation draws from ancient Egyptian religion. The boat was a funerary craft for the afterlife. Just as Ra sailed the celestial river, so too would Khufu need a vessel to navigate the realms beyond death, accompanying the sun by day and surviving the trials of the underworld by night. Yet this idea, while consistent with funerary texts and temple art, leaves open questions. If the boat was purely symbolic, why build it so well, so seaworthy? Why not a model or effigy? The craftsmanship suggests real function, not just ritual. Some scholars propose that the boat may have seen use during Khufu's lifetime, perhaps for sacred processions along the Nile, before being ritually buried as part of his transition into the afterlife. Others point to the boat's Lebanese cedar construction, indicating the value placed on foreign materials and hinting at meanings now lost to time. The mystery deepened in 1987 when archaeologists discovered a second sealed pit near Khufu's pyramid. Within it, another immense ship, just as well preserved and never before opened since antiquity. Combined with at least 5 total pits around the Great Pyramid and others near neighboring pyramids, these findings suggest a larger tradition at work, one more complex than a single symbolic burial. So what were these boats truly? Were they strictly funerary vessels? Or used in life for royal ceremonies reenacting cosmic myths of death and rebirth? Were they symbols of divine authority, representing not only earthly power, but celestial dominion? More speculative voices suggest that the boats were more than religious objects, that they reflected an ancient understanding of cosmology, astronomy, or celestial navigation now lost. The precise orientation of the pits, aligned with the cardinal directions, may indicate ritual alignment with the heavens, part of elaborate rites to maintain Ma'at, the cosmic order. Some fringe theories go further still, claiming the boats are remnants of forgotten maritime cultures or lost civilizations absorbed into the mythology of dynastic Egypt. While these claims remain unsupported by direct evidence, they echo the same longing, the need to understand why such effort, such mastery was devoted to vessels meant never to sail. What is certain is this: no written texts from Khufu's reign survive to explain the ritual significance of the solar boats. No hieroglyphs spell out the ceremonies that once surrounded them. We are left to decipher a story from timber, rope, and geometry. Today, one of Khufu's solar boats resides in a specially built museum beside the pyramid. Inside, the vessel's elegant shape, its high, curling prow, and precisely joined planks invites reverence. The binding ropes, still intact, speak of a belief system where every detail held sacred meaning. This was no offering. It was a craft for a king's soul. And yet, so many questions remain. Why 2 boats, sealed in separate ways? Were there more, now lost to time and erosion? What rituals unfolded here long ago in the silence beneath the pyramids? The Giza Plateau, despite a century of excavation, continues to guard its mysteries. Some, like the pyramids, rise in plain sight. Others lie just beneath the surface, buried in chambers of sand and memory. The solar boats, resting still in their hidden pits, remind us that even in one of the most studied places on Earth, the past is never fully uncovered. Its whispers echo faintly, inviting us to listen and wonder what else lies hidden beneath Egypt's eternal veil. The Dendera light bulb theory, a glimmer from the ancient past. As the quiet settles once more over the sands of Giza, our journey shifts southward toward the verdant heart of Upper Egypt. Here, in a sleepy bend of the Nile, lies a temple not shrouded in mystery by absence, but etched into stone itself. This is Dendera, home to one of the best preserved temples in all of Egypt. Rising on the west bank of the Nile, the Temple of Hathor, goddess of love, music, and healing, stands in almost surreal beauty. Its towering columns are crowned with the serene face of the goddess. Its ceilings remain painted deep blue, scattered with golden stars, mirroring the heavens above. And deep within this sacred structure, in chambers rarely seen by tourists, lies one of the most debated enigmas of Egyptology, a mystery carved not into legend, but into the very walls of stone. Here, in the subterranean crypts of Dendera, are a series of curious reliefs. Carvings that, to some, suggest the unthinkable, that the ancient Egyptians may have understood and harnessed electricity. This is the heart of the Dendera light bulb theory. In these underground chambers, strange images line the walls. Among them is a scene that defies easy explanation. A large, bulb-shaped object appears, with a thick central filament stretching through its center. A snake, an ancient symbol of energy and life, emerges from within the glowing oval. The object connects to what appears to be a pedestal or socket. Surrounding figures hold or support it, as if performing a ritual or operating a device. To modern eyes, the resemblance is immediate, a filament inside a glass bulb connected by a cable. An ancient light bulb, buried in stone relief. Could it be that the high priests of Dendera possessed knowledge of electrical power? Could these carvings be more than myth, evidence of lost technology, preserved not in wires or metal, but in sacred art? Mainstream Egyptology, however, offers a different explanation. According to most scholars, the image does not depict a bulb or any technological device, but is instead a symbolic representation, a lotus flower from which emerges a sacred serpent, representing divine energy and rebirth. This imagery aligns with the mythology of the sun god's daily journey through the underworld, a metaphor for death and resurrection. In this interpretation, the relief is spiritual, not scientific, a visual theology, not a blueprint. Yet the light bulb theory refuses to fade. Its proponents point to an enduring puzzle: the lack of soot or smoke damage in many tombs and inner sanctuaries. If oil lamps were the only source of light, they ask, why are the ceilings so pristine? How did artisans paint in darkness without torchlight or flame leaving its trace? Could these crypts have once held hidden rituals, a priesthood safeguarding esoteric knowledge passed down through generations, known only to the initiated? Supporters of the theory point to other details: what some interpret as a power source or generator beneath the bulb, the deliberate poses of the surrounding figures, the coiled snake, so often associated with energy and vitality in many ancient traditions, contained within the bulb, as though animating it. Still, there is no physical evidence of electrical devices, no ancient wires, no conductors, no written instructions. Only these images, open to interpretation. Skeptics caution against reading too literally. Egyptian art, they remind us, was rarely meant to be photorealistic. It was symbolic, designed to express cosmic truths, spiritual relationships, and metaphysical concepts. What appears technological to us may be misread mythology, filtered through a modern lens. Yet even so, the carvings captivate. They stir the imagination, reminding us how easily ancient meaning can be lost, how much of history's true shape has eroded under the weight of time. Are we seeing evidence of a lost science? Or are we simply reflecting our own hopes and fantasies onto a canvas of forgotten belief? Today, the Temple of Hathor remains a place of quiet wonder. Few visitors make their way into the crypts. The air there is cool, heavy with centuries. The carvings lie in half light, their lines still sharp, their message still silent. And as we stand before them, in the stillness of that sacred space, our minds drift. Could the ancients have glimpsed truths we are only beginning to rediscover? Did their temples house more than devotion? Could they have been repositories of knowledge, now lost in the collapse of civilizations? Or are we, in our search for ancient marvels, overlooking a greater truth that the spiritual vision of Egypt was not less than science, but something different entirely? A worldview where myth and matter intertwined, where energy was both sacred and symbolic, and where symbols served not to describe machines, but to bridge the world of man and God. In the quiet of Dendra's crypts, the carvings remain, watching, waiting. They whisper no answers, only questions. And in their mystery, they call us still to look and to wonder. The Sea Peoples, shadows of collapse. Across the sands of Egypt, where ambition and divinity were once carved into stone, we now turn toward a different kind of mystery, one not built upon enduring monuments, but left behind in the wreckage of sudden collapse and forgotten enemies. Around 1200 BC, the ancient world began to unravel. In a span of mere decades, mighty kingdoms fell. Cities that had stood for centuries were burned and abandoned. Trade networks that once bound the Mediterranean in prosperity dissolved into silence. Historians call it the Late Bronze Age collapse. Its causes remain fiercely debated, but one name echoes through the smoke and rubble, a name steeped in fear and uncertainty. The Sea Peoples. Who were these mysterious invaders? And what role did they play in the fall of Egypt's empire? The earliest clues come from Egypt's New Kingdom, recorded during the reigns of pharaohs Merenta and Ramesses III. On the temple walls at Karnak and Medinet Habu, vivid reliefs tell the story. Fierce warriors arriving by sea and land, armed with spears, crested helmets on their heads. Their ships cut through the Nile Delta like a rising tide. Inscriptions speak of northerners from all lands, enemies who laid waste to everything in their path. They came not just as soldiers, but as entire migrating peoples, families, animals, and belongings in tow. A mass exodus masquerading as an invasion. Ramesses III, one of Egypt's last great warrior pharaohs, claimed victory over them around 1175 BC, a rare triumph in an age of disaster. Egypt, unlike so many of its neighbors, survived, but not unscathed. The empire contracted, wealth diminished, and the once mighty New Kingdom began its slow decline. Yet the question remains, who were the Sea Peoples? Egyptian texts name them: the Peliset, Jeker, Shiklish, Denyen, and Weshish. Groups scholars have tentatively linked to regions across the Mediterranean. Some associate them with the Aegean, Anatolia, Cyprus, even the Balkans. Others suggest links to displaced Minoans, Sardinians, or Sicilians. The prevailing academic view holds that these groups were driven by a perfect storm: climate change, drought, earthquakes, famine, and internal strife across the Bronze Age world. In this reading, the Sea Peoples were less a cause of collapse and more a symptom, a wave of opportunistic raiders and desperate migrants taking advantage of weakened civilizations. But the mystery runs deeper. Why did these invasions happen so suddenly and with such coordination? How did powerful states like the Hittites, the Mycenaeans, and the Canaanite city-states fall so swiftly, leaving behind only ruins, broken tablets, and unanswered questions? More speculative theories suggest a far more organized force, a coalition of displaced warriors, former mercenaries, or remnants of fallen empires. Some even whisper of a larger, unknown civilization orchestrating these migrations from the shadows, driven by ambitions we no longer comprehend. In Egyptian art, the Sea Peoples are not portrayed as ragged refugees. They are a lethal threat, disciplined, determined, and dangerous. The reliefs at Medinet Habu show complex naval battles, ships crashing, soldiers grappling in the surf. At the center stands Ramesses III, unyielding, the last defense against chaos. And yet, the Sea Peoples left no written records of their own. No surviving language. No clearly identified homeland. Their tale lives only in the accounts of their enemies, a one-sided narrative of a civilization-ending storm. Archaeologists continue to uncover clues, layers of violent destruction, abandoned cities, shifts in pottery styles, and genetic traces scattered across the Mediterranean. Each discovery brings us a little closer to understanding, but the whole picture remains elusive. Were they invaders or refugees? Warriors or settlers? A symptom of collapse or one of its prime catalysts? Their legacy is significant. Egypt's confrontation with the Sea Peoples marked a turning point. Though Ramesses III won the battle, Egypt's imperial era was drawing to a close. Central power weakened. Regional governors grew stronger. The empire fractured, ushering in the Third Intermediate Period, a time of instability and foreign influence. And so, as we stand before the battle-scarred walls of Medinet Habu, where the victories of Ramesses III are immortalized in stone, we can still sense the tension. A moment when Egypt stood on the brink and only just survived. The Sea Peoples remain a ghost army in the pages of history. A reminder that even the most powerful civilizations are vulnerable to forces they may never fully understand. Mass migration, environmental upheaval, human desperation, forces capable of remaking the world in a single generation. What drove the Sea Peoples to launch across a crumbling world? Were they agents of destruction, the harbingers of a new age, or simply survivors of a catastrophe they did not cause? The waves of time have washed away the answers, but the questions remain, stirring in the dust of ruins, whispering through the broken cities, waiting for the day when the lost voice of the Sea Peoples might finally speak again. Tutankhamun's tomb. Mystery, myth, and the shadow of a curse. Within the cryptic terrain of Egypt's ancient secrets, a tale lingers, woven from awe and dread. Beneath the scorching skies of the Valley of the Kings, the very land seems to conceal its truths with fierce protectiveness. Jagged cliffs rise, their surfaces whitened by ages of brutal sun and ever-changing winds. Nestled in the cracks and hollows of this barren region rest tombs, eternal resting places of divine rulers long gone. It was in this hallowed valley, in the year 1922, that British archaeologist Howard Carter stumbled upon a doorway forgotten by time, sealed tight by hands over 3,000 years ago. Behind this portal lay a revelation destined to captivate the world and stir unsettling murmurs of something darker. A legendary curse. The tomb of Tutankhamun, Egypt's young pharaoh from the 18th dynasty, was found astonishingly preserved, a rarity in a valley rife with looting. Inside, treasures lay untouched: gold sculptures, delicate alabaster vessels, finely woven fabrics, and a unique sarcophagus shrouded in stale, undisturbed air. It offered a rare glimpse into a royal world lost to history, a snapshot of grandeur defying time itself. Yet from the moment the tomb was breached, unusual happenings began to emerge. The first to spark intrigue was the sudden death of Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's financial backer. Just months after the discovery, he passed away in Cairo due to an infected mosquito bite that turned fatally septic. On the night he died, citywide blackouts were reported, and at his estate in England, his loyal dog reportedly let out a sorrowful cry before collapsing lifeless. Hungry for headlines, the press latched onto the story, and so the legend of a pharaoh's curse was born. Carnarvon's fate was only the beginning. In the years that followed, other figures linked to the tomb's excavation died under odd or abrupt conditions. Radiologist Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, who examined the mummy with X-rays, died from a strange illness. Wealthy visitor George J. Gould fell ill with a fever shortly after his visit and soon died. Arthur Mace, a close associate of Carter, became severely ill and never recovered. Were these mere coincidences? Could long-sealed pathogens, bacteria, fungi, or ancient molds be responsible, dormant for millennia, and unleashed into the air when the tomb was opened? Science offers plausible explanations. Researchers note that sealed burial chambers can harbor dangerous microorganisms. The ancient Egyptians used organic substances, resins, oils, fabrics in their rituals. Trapped in stagnant air, these materials could decompose into harmful compounds, creating toxic environments. Breathing such air might suppress immunity, allowing infections to take hold. Still, many of the supposed curse-related deaths happened years after the tomb was uncovered. Howard Carter himself lived on for more than a decade and a half, passing away peacefully in 1939. His survival suggests no consistent pattern of supernatural vengeance. Even so, the myth of the curse endures, fueled by both early 20th century sensationalism and the spiritual worldview of ancient Egypt. To the Egyptians of antiquity, death marked not an end, but a journey through a perilous afterlife filled with dangers, protectors, and rituals. Tombs were often inscribed with protective magic, spells, warnings, and sacred curses, meant to safeguard the deceased and deter those who might defile their resting place. Though no formal curse was found on Tutankhamun's tomb entrance, protections may have been subtly hidden, etched into amulets, layered in funerary incantations, or embedded within the very structure of the tomb. Some wonder if these spiritual safeguards still hold power. Others speculate that fear, awe, and guilt may have induced psychosomatic effects, where belief in the curse weakened health. The human mind, after all, can be a powerful force, as potent as any toxin. On the more speculative fringe, others imagine that the ancient Egyptians possessed knowledge now lost, an understanding of energies or forces modern science has yet to discover. Could the tomb itself have been designed to trigger hidden effects when disturbed? Such theories, while lacking proof, continue to fascinate those who believe we've only scratched the surface of ancient wisdom. Despite the skepticism, Tutankhamun's resting place continues to captivate the world. His treasures, now largely housed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo and soon to be showcased at the Grand Egyptian Museum, glow with a timeless brilliance. Yet the tomb's original aura, that dense, heavy stillness, that invisible pressure of centuries, cannot be replicated in any display case. When we stand before the golden mask of Tutankhamun, serene and eternal, gazing back at us from the depths of time, we cannot help but ask, did modern ambition disturb something sacred? Or are these tales of curses simply the shadows of our own imagination, projected onto a culture we have yet to fully understand? The desert remains quiet, but the myths born from its sands still murmur, urging us to ponder where truth ends and legend begins, as the echoes of Tutankhamun's so-called curse continue to haunt our collective curiosity. Alexander the Great, the vanishing tomb of a god-king, carried on Egypt's dry desert winds comes another enigma, a figure far removed in time, yet cloaked in just as much uncertainty. Though born in distant Macedonia, Alexander the Great once roamed Egypt under the blazing sun, hailed as divine, a conqueror revered as a living god. His empire stretched across 3 continents, his influence unmatched. Yet in death, his most enduring legacy has proven unreachable, the site of his final burial. Ancient writings say Alexander died in 323 BCE under murky and disputed circumstances within the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon. His remains, it's said, were placed within an opulent gold coffin and set on a ceremonial journey back to Macedonia. But fate intervened. One of his most trusted generals, Ptolemy, reportedly diverted the funeral procession. Instead of returning Alexander to his homeland, Ptolemy brought the deceased ruler to Egypt, the very land where Alexander had been proclaimed the son of Amun, a living conduit between mortals and gods. Initial burial, according to tradition, took place in Memphis. Later, his remains were relocated to Alexandria, the gleaming coastal city that bore his name. There, a tomb of extraordinary magnificence, known as the Soma or possibly the Sema, was built to enshrine the fallen emperor. For centuries, this tomb was among the most revered sites of antiquity. Roman rulers, including Julius Caesar and Augustus, are said to have visited, gazing upon the preserved remains of the great king. And then, mysteriously, the tomb disappeared. References dwindled. Mentions grew vague. By the early centuries of the Common Era, the once famous sepulchre had faded from collective memory. Its location was no longer known, lost to upheaval, war, and time. What became of it? And where might it lie now? For hundreds of years, archaeologists and historians have pursued this elusive site. They've combed through fading texts, excavated ancient ruins, and chased clues buried in medieval travelers' stories. Some believe the tomb lies buried beneath Alexandria's modern city, concealed beneath mosques, churches, or ancient wreckage yet uncovered. Others blame catastrophic earthquakes, particularly those in the 4th and 8th centuries CE, for erasing it from the landscape. Could it have crumbled into ruins and been forgotten beneath layers of urban expansion? Or perhaps religious upheaval during Christianity's rise played a role. As paganism was pushed aside, might the memory of Alexander, a man once deified, have been deliberately erased? Other theories stretch further into speculation. Some scholars argue the tomb may have been moved to protect it, possibly hidden beneath the Serapeum, the grand temple dedicated to Serapis. Others suggest his body may have been relocated to an undiscovered burial chamber, tucked deep in the Nile Delta or Egyptian desert. A few even speculate that Alexander's remains were misidentified and enshrined within a Christian church, worshipped for centuries as those of a saint. Fragments of potential evidence continue to surface, but none form a definitive picture. A marble slab in Alexandria bearing the name Alexander. Ancient tales describing a transparent or glass coffin through which the king's body was still visible. Medieval accounts speaking cryptically of a prophet's tomb revered in Alexandria, unnamed, yet suggestive. Despite these clues, no verifiable discovery has been made. In recent years, renewed efforts in Alexandria's sunken ruins, as well as sites like Qam el-Dika and the area once believed to be the royal district, have rekindled interest. Underwater archaeology has revealed entire neighborhoods submerged by seismic shifts. Lost temples, palaces, and theaters now lie beneath the sea. Might Alexander's tomb still rest there, waiting beneath the waves for careful excavation and the advance of technology? But each find raises new questions. Was the tomb looted? Was the golden sarcophagus melted down in the chaos following empire collapse? Or was it deliberately hidden, sealed away by those who feared the political or spiritual power it still held? Or perhaps it's still intact, buried below today's Alexandria, in a forgotten chamber sealed off from the modern world, unreachable for now. Complicating the search is Alexander himself. In life, he straddled the line between mortal man and divine being. In death, his tomb may have become more myth than monument, a relic as much of imagination as of stone and gold. The more we seek it, the more it seems to recede, like the shadow of his ambition, boundless and unreachable. Modern Alexandria is a living mosaic of cultures and eras: Greek, Roman, Byzantine, Islamic, and modern Egyptian. Somewhere under its worn alleys and layered foundations, the dust of one of history's most influential figures may still lie in waiting. Or perhaps, like the empire he built, Alexander's remains have become part of the very soil, dispersed and dissolved into the lands he once ruled. The question remains as elusive and compelling as ever. Where is Alexander the Great? And if his tomb were finally unearthed, if his remains were to be touched by modern hands, what revelations might they bring about the man who dared to conquer the limits of the known world? The tides rise, the city transforms, and history lies dormant beneath it all. And like countless seekers before us, we are left to wonder, is Alexander's final resting place still beneath our feet, or has it slipped forever beyond our grasp? The Red Pyramid, echoes of sacred stone and forgotten knowledge. Amid the vast expanse of Egypt's desert, where the winds carry whispers of ancient wisdom, one monument stands with quiet dignity, often overshadowed by its more famous counterparts at Giza, yet holding enigmas all its own. This is the Red Pyramid, a striking structure rising from the sands of Dahshur, south of modern Cairo. It is the earliest example of a true smooth-sided pyramid, a milestone in architectural evolution that still stirs profound questions. Bathed in sunlight, its reddish limestone gleams faintly beneath the shifting sky, casting angular shadows across the plain. From a distance, its symmetry suggests calm permanence, a timeless sentinel of stone. But as we approach, that calm gives way to curiosity. Who truly built this monument? And what drove its construction? Tradition attributes the Red Pyramid to Pharaoh Sneferu, founder of Egypt's 4th dynasty, who ruled around 2600 BCE. Sneferu, famed for his architectural ambitions, is credited with transforming the pyramid from a stepped form into the sleek geometric marvels we now associate with ancient Egypt's golden age. Inscriptions near the pyramid invoke Sneferu's royal titles, linking the structure to his reign. The Red Pyramid appears to be the culmination of a remarkable progression, from the collapsed Mitam pyramid to the transitional bent pyramid, both connected to Sneferu. The Red Pyramid's perfect proportions and smooth surfaces suggest lessons learned, corrections made, and a leap in engineering mastery. But just how such mastery was achieved remains a mystery. Standing over 344 feet tall, with a base spanning more than 720 feet, the Red Pyramid was built from massive limestone blocks, each weighing several tons, set with a precision that defies expectations. Inside, corbelled chambers and descending corridors demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of structural forces and internal stability. Could all this have truly developed within a single generation? Was it the product of relentless trial and error? Or is there a deeper story, hinting at lost techniques or forgotten knowledge? Consider the pyramid's slope, a modest 43 degrees, identical to the upper angle of the bent pyramid. This was no coincidence. It suggests continuity, not experimentation, possibly the execution of a long-planned architectural vision. Was the Red Pyramid meant to correct flaws in earlier designs, or was it part of a broader symbolic program that we have yet to fully understand? Some researchers propose that the Red Pyramid was more than a royal tomb. It was a sacred structure aligned with cosmic principles. Its orientation to the cardinal points is strikingly precise, revealing an understanding not only of engineering, but of astronomy. Could the pyramid itself be a kind of celestial map, its stones encoding the rhythms of the heavens, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth? The color of the pyramid's stone adds another layer of intrigue. Though time and erosion have dimmed it, the Red Pyramid may once have glowed a soft golden pink in the desert sun. In ancient Egyptian symbolism, red was a powerful hue associated with life, vitality, but also chaos and the desert itself. Was the choice of red limestone merely aesthetic, or did it hold deeper meaning, woven into the fabric of the king's eternal home? And yet, for all its grandeur, the Red Pyramid stands strangely empty. Its inner chambers are bare, stark, unadorned, silent. No sarcophagus lies within. No funerary artifacts were discovered. If Sneferu was buried here, no trace remains. Was the tomb looted in antiquity? Was the burial ever completed? Or did the king ultimately choose another resting place, still hidden beneath the sands? More speculative theories venture into the unknown. Some suggest the Red Pyramid was never a tomb at all, but a temple of transformation dedicated to cosmic balance, to the rebirth of the sun, or to sacred alignments between earth and sky. Others claim the pyramid, and perhaps others like it, is far older than Egypt's dynastic records suggest. According to this French view, these structures may be relics of a forgotten civilization, their true origins buried deeper than any excavator has yet dug. While mainstream Egyptology continues to support the accepted timeline, such theories remind us of how many gaps still exist. Few written records survive from Egypt's earliest dynasties. The sands conceal not only artifacts, but entire chapters of human history. Today, the Red Pyramid rests quietly amid the silence of Dashur. Unlike the pyramids of Giza, it draws few tourists. There is no bustling crowd, only the endless horizon, the wind, and the massive stones that hold their secrets close. The dark entrance gapes coolly against the desert heat, beckoning those willing to descend into its mysterious depths. Here, among carefully hewn limestone and echoing chambers, the work of vanished hands speaks to us. These builders were not merely laborers, they were dreamers of eternity, engineers of the soul's journey beyond death. Who truly conceived this magnificent structure? Was it the culmination of evolving knowledge, or the execution of an ancient blueprint passed down through hidden channels? Was it born of devotion to a king, or reverence for forces greater still? The Red Pyramid endures, silent, elegant, and enigmatic, a beacon from the distant past, a challenge to modern understanding, a riddle carved into stone. And so we are left to ponder not only what was built, but why, and whether, in seeking its meaning, we are also chasing something older, deeper. The forgotten truths of a world whose language was geometry, whose temple was the sky. Raising the sky. The mystery of Egypt's obelisks. In a land where the divine once walked among mortals, ancient Egypt left behind wonders carved from the bones of the earth, monuments that still defy understanding. Among these marvels, few are as elegant, ambitious, and mysterious as the obelisk. Tall, slender, and hewn from a single block of stone, the obelisks of Egypt soar toward the heavens like frozen bolts of sunlight, their tips once gilded with electrum to catch the morning light, the first greeting of the sun god Ra. But behind their graceful silhouettes lies one of antiquity's most enduring enigmas. How were they made? Carved from unforgiving granite, often in the quarries of Aswan. Some of these obelisks weigh hundreds of tons, their surfaces inscribed with hieroglyphs so precise, their edges so clean that modern engineers and archaeologists are left to marvel. How, over 3,000 years ago, did ancient builders manage to extract, shape, transport, and raise these colossal monoliths with nothing more than stone tools, ropes, and wood? The mainstream explanation, pieced together from inscriptions, ancient artwork, and experimental reconstructions, suggests a method born of perseverance and ingenious simplicity. Workers used dolerite pounders, harder than granite, to painstakingly chip away at the rock, carving the obelisks directly from bedrock. Once freed, the stones were hauled on sledges across lubricated paths of water or mud, possibly floated along the Nile to their final destinations, then erected using systems of ramps, ropes, and counterweights. In theory, this is possible. Small-scale experiments have shown that with enough labor, stone blocks weighing several tons can indeed be moved and lifted without modern machinery. But when confronted with the sheer scale of Egypt's largest obelisks, some over 100 feet tall and weighing more than 300 tons, doubts begin to surface. How did ancient artisans shape such massive stones with such delicacy, avoiding fatal cracks or fractures? How were the surfaces polished to a near-mirror finish? And once transported, how were these towering spires hoisted into vertical position with such balance and precision that many still stand, millennia later, unbroken? The unfinished obelisk at Aswan offers a rare glimpse into the process and its perils. There, in the granite quarry, lies a massive monolith, cracked and abandoned mid-carving. Tool marks remain, evidence of pounding and chiseling, but also signs of a technique not fully understood. The trenches around the obelisk are remarkably uniform. The clean separation lines between the stone and the bedrock suggest a controlled and calculated process, not mere brute force. What were the limits of their knowledge? And what might we be missing? Some scholars insist that the success of the obelisks was the result of nothing more than sophisticated planning, generations of experience, and massive labor forces driven by religious devotion. For the Egyptians, raising an obelisk was not merely an engineering challenge, it was a sacred act, a symbolic recreation of cosmic order. But not everyone is convinced. More speculative voices propose that ancient builders may have possessed knowledge now lost, techniques that modern science has yet to rediscover or understand. Some suggest that legends of lifting with sound or using resonant frequencies to manipulate stone could be echoes of forgotten technologies. Others hypothesize the use of advanced rigging systems or mechanical devices far beyond what the archaeological record currently shows. While these ideas remain controversial and lack direct evidence, then for an essential truth we still don't fully understand how it was done. Further fueling the mystery is the symbolic precision of the obelisks. These were not merely decorative spires, they were sacred instruments aligned with cardinal directions, designed to embody the sun's rebirth and the pharaoh's divine connection to the heavens. A single miscalculation in their erection could mean disaster. And yet, time and again, the Egyptians succeeded. Today, many of Egypt's ancient obelisks stand far from their original homes. Carried away by conquest, diplomacy, or fascination, they now rise in cities like Rome, Paris, London, Istanbul, and New York, scattered sentinels from a distant age, their true purpose long obscured, their messages half remembered. Yet, wherever they stand, the obelisks continue to evoke awe. Before them, one cannot help but feel humbled. These were not just feats of engineering, they were acts of devotion, testaments to a civilization that sought to bind the heavens to the earth through stone and light. And so the questions remain. Were the obelisks simply the product of raw determination and primitive tools? Or did they arise from a deeper understanding, a sacred science long buried by the passage of time? As their shadows stretch across the centuries, the obelisks remain silent. But their silence is not empty. It is filled with challenge. A challenge to remember, to rediscover, and to reimagine what the ancients knew. The obelisks still reach skyward, and in their towering presence, they invite us to do the same. Whispers in Stone. The mystery of the White Chapel of Senusret-I. As we turn from the vast, unmeasured epochs of geological time, our journey narrows, leaving behind towering pyramids and fallen metropolises. Instead, we arrive in silence, at a smaller scale, but no less grand in meaning. In the heart of Karnak, among Egypt's most sacred grounds, stands a monument unlike any other. It does not dazzle with size or boast the massive scale of the pharaoh's more famous legacies, but it gleams quietly, precisely, with mystery. This is the White Chapel of Senusret-I. Reconstructed from broken fragments in the 20th century, the chapel appears today like a ghost returned from oblivion. Crafted around 1950 BCE during the reign of Senusret-I, a powerful ruler of Egypt's 12th dynasty, the structure radiates a serenity that feels almost untouched by time. Its pale limestone walls catch the Egyptian sun with a luminous glow, while delicate carvings, almost miraculously preserved, offer a glimpse into a world where art, ritual, and divine authority were one and the same. Though modest in scale, the chapel was once a bark shrine, a ceremonial station for the sacred boat of Amun during great religious processions. But behind this apparent function lies a deeper enigma. Why was such an exquisitely constructed monument dismantled, buried, and forgotten for nearly 4,000 years? Historians believe the White Chapel once formed part of a much larger religious complex at Karnak, built during a time of political unification and religious resurgence. For Senusret-I, erecting such a sanctuary would have been a powerful statement, both theological and political. The detailed carvings inside depict the pharaoh receiving blessings from the gods, presenting offerings, and embracing divine figures. Hieroglyphs list the nomes, provinces of ancient Egypt, symbolizing the ordered unity of a nation under divine rule. Yet, long after its construction, the chapel vanished. Its stones were reused, buried within the foundations of a pylon, likely under the reign of later pharaohs like Amenhotep III. It was a disappearance not of destruction, but of absorption, the sacred repurposed for the sacred. A structure once meant to elevate was instead hidden beneath newer ambitions. Why? The mainstream view is pragmatic. Temples in Egypt were living institutions, constantly evolving. As priorities shifted, as new rulers sought to leave their own marks, older buildings, no matter how beautiful, were often cannibalized. The White Chapel's limestone blocks may have simply been seen as valuable material during a time of grand construction. But some scholars suspect more deliberate motives. Perhaps ideological shifts between dynasties rendered the chapel and the version of Amun's worship it represented outdated or even problematic. As Egypt's theology transformed, earlier expressions of divinity might have been deemed unsuitable. Dismantling the chapel may have served both spiritual and political ends, a symbolic erasure of the old order in favor of the new. There are subtler theories as well. Some researchers suggest that the chapel encodes more than religious art. The layout of the reliefs, the placement of hieroglyphs, and the geometric proportions of the structure have led some to speculate that it may represent a kind of cosmic diagram, a microcosm of Egypt itself, or perhaps even a map of the universe as the ancients saw it. Could its removal have been more than convenience, perhaps an intentional concealment of esoteric knowledge? The restoration of the chapel in the modern era was a feat of archaeological devotion, each fragment catalogued, matched, and reassembled with extraordinary care. Today, visitors to Karnak can step inside the resurrected shrine, passing between its restored columns, and behold its intricate reliefs, their lines crisp, their stories quiet yet potent, still capable of moving those who stop to look closely. And yet, the mystery remains. Why was it hidden? Why was such perfection buried? No inscriptions explain its dismantling. No records clarify its disappearance. The chapel stands now as a riddle in stone, a relic that survived not by chance, but perhaps by some larger rhythm of concealment and rediscovery. Was it simply a ceremonial station? Or was it also a coded message, a work of sacred geometry, celestial alignment, and forgotten meaning? The White Chapel endures, luminous and serene, an echo of an ancient world still rich with unanswered questions. In its presence, we feel the gentle pull of the past, the sense that not all mysteries lie buried beneath sand and time. Some, like the chapel itself, have risen again, still whispering of rituals long lost, and of truths we have only just begun to remember. Veiled in stone, the hidden chambers behind Tutankhamun's tomb, another enigma begins to stir, not in distant ruins or crumbling temples, but in the very heart of a tomb already known to the world. Deeper we go, beyond what the eye can see, into the silence of chambers that may have remained undisturbed for over 3 millennia. The tomb of Tutankhamun, dazzling though it is with golden splendor and fragile wonders, has always posed a quiet riddle. In contrast to the sprawling majesty of other pharaohs' final resting places, his tomb feels strangely constrained, a handful of tight, awkwardly arranged rooms, as though hastily assembled in the shadow of crisis. The walls, though radiant with color, bear the unmistakable signs of haste. The brushwork is hurried. The iconography feels compressed, improvised. For all its fame, the tomb does not quite feel like the home of a king. And so we must ask, was this space truly meant for Tutankhamun? Or is there something more, just beyond the walls we know? Buried in the ochre cliffs of the Valley of the Kings, Tomb KV62 was uncovered in 1922 in a miraculous state of preservation. Yet, as archaeologists mapped its design and puzzled over its features, strange inconsistencies emerged. The orientation of the burial chamber, the unfinished decor, the unusual placement of artifacts, all whispered of improvisation. A final resting place repurposed. The theory arose: Tutankhamun's tomb was not originally his at all. Then, in 2015, the mystery took a bold turn. British Egyptologist Nicholas Reeves, poring over high-resolution scans of the tomb's painted walls, noticed faint, almost invisible lines, subtle outlines beneath the pigment. These, he suggested, might be sealed doorways hidden by ancient artisans over 30 centuries ago. What might lie beyond them? Reeves proposed a stunning idea, that behind the northern wall of Tutankhamun's burial chamber lies the long-lost tomb of Queen Nefertiti, consort, co-regent, and possibly even pharaoh in her own right. A queen who vanished from historical record under enigmatic circumstances. A royal burial never conclusively found. Could it be that her magnificent tomb, built with the full ceremony due to a sovereign, was adapted upon her death to house the young, ill-fated Tutankhamun? The possibility electrified the world. Subsequent scans using radar and thermal imaging detected anomalies, unusual temperature readings, strange shifts in density, hints of hidden voids behind the walls. Yet the results proved frustratingly ambiguous. Some surveys seemed to support the idea of secret chambers. Others saw only natural faults in the stone. Some experts warned of false positives, of wishful interpretations, of mirages formed by light and desire. Still, the question refused to die. Why is Tutankhamun's tomb so modest for a king? Why do the wall paintings depict rituals traditionally reserved for queens? Why do certain stylistic elements echo the artistic period of Nefertiti's reign more than that of Tutankhamun's own? If a hidden chamber exists, what could it contain? Forgotten treasures? The undisturbed mummy of a legendary queen? Or nothing at all, just empty stone and dreams? Other, more speculative theories suggest the concealment was deliberate, that in the turbulent aftermath of Akhenaten's religious revolution, tombs were hidden to protect the memory of those who ruled during that contentious era, or to erase them entirely. Some believe that secret chambers were always part of royal tomb design, meant to mislead robbers and preserve sacred secrecy. But even if such chambers exist, should we open them? To the ancient Egyptians, the tomb was far more than a place of interment. It was a vessel of transformation, a spiritual machine for rebirth. Every wall, every measurement, every ritual painting was part of a sacred architecture meant to carry the soul to eternity. To break through a sealed wall might not only compromise the physical tomb, it could disrupt the balance of the afterlife itself. And yet, the mystery beckons. It is difficult to resist the pull, the idea that just beyond the painted limestone, a forgotten queen may still lie in silence, her story unfinished, her legacy waiting to be rediscovered. The tomb of Tutankhamun has already revealed untold wonders, but perhaps it holds one final revelation, sealed in stone, daring us to uncover it or to walk away. As we stand in that still chamber, eyes tracing the murals, hands inches from cold stone, we must ask, does the past still guard secrets we are not meant to know? And if so, what will it take? What must we risk to learn them? Some truths lie buried not by accident, but by design. And perhaps it is not the tomb alone that waits, but something in us too, waiting for the right moment, the right eyes, the right silence. The Vanishing Pharaoh, the mysterious death of Akhenaten. Amid the high sands and barren cliffs of Middle Egypt, far from the familiar grandeur of Thebes, lies a tale not of a vanished city, but of a vanished king. Here, at the edge of the eastern desert, the sun scorches the broken stones of Amarna, a city born from pure conviction. This was the dream of Pharaoh Akhenaten, carved from nothing, a holy place built not in honor of Amun or the great gods of old, but in service to a single blinding force, the Aten, the radiant disk of the sun. It was a religious revolution without precedent, and like many revolutions, it burned brightly before it collapsed into silence. Akhenaten's vision was dismantled. His city fell to ruin. His very name was chiseled out of history. And somewhere in the rubble of this downfall, a mystery remains. How did Akhenaten die? Akhenaten, who ruled Egypt from roughly 1353 to 1336 BC, remains one of history's most polarizing pharaohs. To some, he was a visionary mystic who glimpsed a divine truth. To others, a heretic who shattered centuries of spiritual and political order. He upended Egypt's vast pantheon, dissolving ancient priesthoods and centralizing worship around the Aten, an abstract sun deity. He moved the capital, rewrote the canon of royal art, and dared to portray himself not as an idealized god-king, but in unsettlingly human form, long-faced, narrow-chested, wide-hipped, a figure both divine and disturbingly mortal. To this day, we do not know if these images reflected real physical traits or symbolic choices meant to represent his merging of male and female, earth and sky, flesh and divinity. The ambiguity only deepens the mystery. What we do know is this: Akhenaten's death, like much of his life, is veiled in obscurity. No clear account survives. No majestic burial site has been definitively linked to him. Just absence, a void that seems almost intentional. Some scholars believe he died of natural causes, perhaps from illness. The physical abnormalities depicted in art have led to speculation about genetic disorders like Marfan syndrome or Froelich syndrome. But such diagnoses are speculative, drawn from stylized images rather than forensic evidence. Others believe his demise was political. By the later years of his reign, dissent had grown. Economic instability and spiritual upheaval had fractured the unity of Egypt. Enemies gathered in temples, in the army, perhaps even within his own family. Was he quietly removed? Was his death concealed to prevent unrest during a fragile transition? The power vacuum that followed is murky. A mysterious figure named Sphinx ruled briefly, then vanished. Soon after, the boy king Tutankhamun took the throne, ushering in a systematic erasure of Akhenaten's legacy. Temples to Aten were demolished. His images were defaced. His name was struck from records. This was not simple neglect. It was condemnation. And yet, no definitive evidence of murder or forced abdication has surfaced. The sands of Amarna and the mystery of his missing tomb only deepen the puzzle. Akhenaten's royal tomb was carved into the eastern cliffs of Amarna, a grand echo of the Valley of the Kings. There, shattered fragments of funerary equipment and faded inscriptions suggest it was used. But the pharaoh's mummy was never found. Some believe his body was removed during the backlash, hidden or destroyed entirely to obliterate his legacy. Others suggest he may have been buried elsewhere, perhaps in Thebes, perhaps in an undiscovered chamber beneath the desert floor, still waiting in silence. Then came 2010. A landmark DNA study on mummies from KV-55 in the Valley of the Kings reignited the mystery. A damaged mummy, long suspected to be Akhenaten, was found to be genetically linked to Tutankhamun, believed to be his son. The remains appeared to belong to a man in his mid-30s, matching Akhenaten's presumed age at death. But the identification remains fiercely debated. The mummy is in poor condition. The context is fragmentary, and the 18th dynasty, with its tangled lineage and erased names, offers few certainties. Even Akhenaten's final inscriptions provide little closure. In his last years, official records become sparse. Scenes once dominated by a powerful queen, Nefertiti, shift as if power dynamics were in flux. Some believe she may have risen as co-ruler. Others think she vanished altogether. Was Akhenaten's grip already slipping? Was his revolution already unraveling? Speculation thrives in the gaps. Some say Akhenaten's religious extremism provoked not just political backlash, but cosmic backlash. That in breaking with the gods of old, he threw Egypt's spiritual balance into disarray, and in doing so, invited his own doom. Others draw uncanny parallels between his theology and later monotheistic faiths, wondering if his ideas echoed far beyond his time, perhaps in ways still unrecognized. And then there are those who whisper that Akhenaten, in reaching for the divine, touched something forbidden, something that ultimately destroyed him. Today, the ruins of Amarna lie quiet beneath the blazing sun. Its temples are broken, its statues defaced or worn to formlessness. The city is empty, the dream forgotten. And yet, something lingers. The presence of the pharaoh who dared to challenge eternity still haunts these stones. His death remains unsolved, his tomb uncertain, his legacy unfinished. Did Akhenaten die in peace, faithful to his god until the end? Or was he silenced, his dream buried before it could fully bloom? The desert keeps its counsel. The sands guard their secrets. But perhaps, somewhere beneath this sun-scorched earth, the final chapter of Akhenaten's story still waits to rise. The Bent Pyramid. Egypt's silent enigma. Beyond the sealed chambers of Tutankhamun's tomb, away from the crowded museums and temples, the sands open once more to a riddle etched into stone. Here, in the vast, sun-bleached desert of Dahshur, just south of Cairo, a solitary monument rises against the skyline. It is not hidden. It is not broken, yet it defies understanding. The Bent Pyramid, its shape unmistakable, its purpose unresolved, stands alone, its limestone casing still clinging to its flanks, glowing pale gold beneath Egypt's relentless sun. It is ancient, it is immense, and it is strange. At first glance, it appears like any other pyramid, a grand testament to a pharaoh's ambition. But look closer, and unease settles in. This pyramid does something others do not. It bends. From the base, its sides climb sharply, as if reaching in determination. But midway, the angle softens abruptly, its steep ascent tapering into a gentler slope toward the sky. The result is a structure that looks, in stone, like hesitation itself. A pyramid caught between two minds, two designs, two intentions. Built around 2600 BCE by Pharaoh Snefru, founder of Egypt's fourth dynasty, the Bent Pyramid marks one of the boldest early steps in the evolution of monumental architecture. It is one of humanity's oldest surviving attempts at a true pyramid, an immense leap in ambition, and possibly a misstep. More than 4 millennia later, no one fully agrees on why this pyramid changes shape. A shift born of crisis? The most widely accepted theory is simple: engineering necessity. The pyramid's original angle, an aggressive 54 degrees, may have pushed the structure too far. As it rose, weight and pressure began to threaten its stability. Cracks emerged. Collapse loomed. In response, ancient builders adapted, reducing the upper slope to a safer 43 degrees. In this telling, the Bent Pyramid is a story of pragmatic genius, a rescue mission in stone. A problem no one had faced before, solved in real time by architects who had never built something so massive. But that version, elegant as it seems, doesn't explain everything. A deliberate design? Why then was such care lavished upon a mistake? Unlike later pyramids, much of the Bent Pyramid's outer casing still survives, meticulously cut and precisely fitted. Its internal chambers are complex, its corridors geometrically aligned, its entrances, 2 of them, uniquely placed on different faces of the structure, each leading to separate burial chambers. These are not the hallmarks of an improvised fix. Could the bend have been intentional? Some scholars suggest the pyramid reflects a transitional design, a midpoint between the earlier step pyramids and the smooth-sided ones perfected at Giza. Others argue for symbolism, a merging of sky and earth, of life and afterlife. In Egyptian belief, duality was sacred. The pyramid's dual angles may embody this, an architectural metaphor for cosmic balance, ritual, or something more? Then there are the more speculative theories. Some believe the pyramid was not just a tomb, but a cosmic marker, its angles aligned with celestial events or solstices, or perhaps with long-lost star charts. A device for interacting with the heavens, built to harness forces now forgotten. Inside, clues add fuel to the mystery. Offset chambers, disconnected corridors, niches that serve no obvious purpose, hidden shafts, sealed voids, elements that don't quite fit a standard burial design. Were these structural experiments or remnants of rituals whose meanings have vanished with time? Recent scans using non-invasive technology have revealed anomalies within the pyramid, strange voids, unusual densities, and possible hidden passageways. But Egypt's authorities, wary of damaging the fragile structure, have resisted invasive exploration. For now, these discoveries remain ghosts inside the stone, glimpsed but unexplained. The legacy of a pharaoh's ambition, Sneferu, determined to master the pyramid form, didn't stop at Dashur. A few kilometers away, he commissioned the Red Pyramid, Egypt's first successful smooth-sided pyramid, and perhaps a perfected version of what the bent pyramid attempted. Was the bent pyramid simply a learning curve, a flawed prototype? Or was it never meant to be improved? Perhaps it was meant to stand exactly as it is, a monument to complexity, to ambition, to the limits of what even kings could control. The desert offers no answers. No inscriptions explain the bend. No texts survive to reveal its builder's intent. Instead, the bent pyramid stands in eternal silence, still whole, still watching. Its angles shift with the sun, casting strange shadows in the morning, glowing with a soft amber halo at dusk. Its very shape seems to pose a question, one that refuses easy answers. Was this a mistake made magnificent? Or does it hold a message, carved in angles and voids, waiting for the right eyes to see? A whisper through time, a riddle in stone. And like the desert that surrounds it, the bent pyramid keeps its secret. The hidden tunnels beneath the Sphinx, as the red stones of Sneferu's bent pyramid fade into the shimmering desert heat, our path turns north, back to the heart of Giza. Here, in the shadow of pyramids, stands a figure more ancient, more enigmatic, and perhaps even more elusive than the pyramids themselves. The Great Sphinx of Giza. Carved from a single ridge of limestone, the Sphinx rises from the plateau like a timeless sentinel. Its body, stretched over 240 feet, lies weathered and worn by millennia of wind and sun. Its face, scarred but resolute, still gazes eastward, greeting each dawn with stoic silence. No monument in Egypt evokes deeper awe or deeper mystery. For while the Sphinx commands attention above ground, it's what lies beneath that has stirred the imagination for thousands of years. Whispers beneath the stone, legends of hidden chambers, buried halls, and secret tunnels beneath the Sphinx have echoed through time. Ancient writings, from Pliny the Elder to medieval Islamic scholars, speak of vast subterranean complexes beneath Giza. Tombs of forgotten kings, repositories of forbidden knowledge, even libraries built by gods in the age before memory. Modern science has only deepened the mystery, unveiling the silent sentinels of Giza. Amid the windswept sands of Giza, where ancient giants dominate the horizon, a quieter enigma waits, often bypassed, yet no less captivating. Tucked beside the immense base of Khufu's Grand Pyramid, three smaller pyramids sit silently in a line, their time-worn stones shaped by millennia of sun and storm. At first sight, they resemble faint reflections, diminutive echoes of their towering sibling. Most visitors barely glance at them, lured instead by the monumental scale of the larger structures. But these lesser pyramids, though humble in size, carry mysteries of their own, enigmas that continue to test our understanding of one of history's most iconic sites. Commonly called the Queen's Pyramids, these smaller tombs have long been thought to belong to royal women, perhaps Pharaoh Khufu's wives or daughters. Excavations support this idea, revealing fragments of sarcophagi and inscriptions bearing names like Hetepheres, Meritites, and Hinutsun. Their internal structures, while far simpler than Khufu's massive tomb, echo the same themes: burial chambers, sloping corridors, suggesting a funerary function. And yet, even these assumptions face challenges. In one of the three pyramids, no human remains have ever been uncovered, prompting speculation that the intended occupant may have been buried elsewhere, or that the true purpose of the structure lies in a completely different realm. Delving deeper, one finds that the position and proportions of these pyramids reveal careful design. They align not by chance, but with precision, suggesting symbolic or ritual significance. Their placement in relation to the Great Pyramid and the larger Giza layout indicates intentionality, perhaps echoing celestial alignments or spiritual geometries that are only partially grasped today. Might these smaller pyramids serve more than just as royal tombs? Could they be vital components of a greater religious system, a sacred mechanism designed to channel divine forces between the earth and sky? Some scholars believe so. They suggest that the Queen's pyramids, together with their adjoining causeways and mortuary temples, played a crucial role in Khufu's journey to the afterlife. In ancient Egyptian cosmology, the pharaoh's passage into eternity was not a solitary voyage but a choreographed ritual involving queens and priestesses whose spiritual roles continued after death. Perhaps these monuments were crafted to cement those connections, anchoring the king's spirit to the celestial order and sustaining the eternal cycle of death and rebirth. Speculative theories push these ideas even further. Some propose that the small pyramids symbolized cosmic forces rather than individuals, possibly aligning with the stars of Orion's belt in an overarching astronomical design that tied the Giza Plateau to the heavens. Others suggest these structures were training grounds, testing sites for techniques later employed in constructing the Great Pyramid, or even ritual stages for the king's transformation into a god. And scattered across the plateau are even more small pyramidal forms, now fragmentary, their purposes obscured by time. These may have been subsidiary tombs, cenotaphs, or monuments dedicated to divine aspects of the king's soul, the Ba and Ka, whose spiritual journey was as vital as that of his physical remains. Layer upon layer, these meanings blend, blurring the lines between sacred tradition, symbolic design, and historical reality. Definitive answers are rare, lost beneath shifting sands and fragmented records, and the mystery deepens. Construction techniques also differ slightly. These smaller pyramids were built with coarser stones, thinner exteriors, and simpler interiors. Were these differences due to limited resources? Or were they the work of separate teams operating during a later stage of the grand project? The truth may lie buried, both in the crumbling ruins and within Egypt's elusive historical memory. Today, standing before the so-called Queen's Pyramids, one cannot help but feel the gravity of their silence. Overshadowed yet persistent, they speak of forgotten chapters in ancient Egyptian life, of a culture where women wielded spiritual power, where death opened gateways rather than ended stories, and where every stone bore cosmic weight. Though their polished casings have long been stripped away, and their surfaces worn by time, the essential mystery still pulses within their forms. Each angle, each shadow, each fading inscription whispers of ancient purpose. Who walked here in sacred procession? What rituals unfolded under the eternal gaze of the stars? As we tread between these humble monuments and the giants that dominate Giza's skyline, we're reminded that the greatest riddles are not always the most imposing. Sometimes the deepest truths dwell in what quietly endures, in the stones that still murmur secrets, and in the questions that continue to go unanswered. And so we ponder, are these small pyramids merely graves for royal women? Or are they fragments of a grander, hidden blueprint, a sacred map etched in stone, still awaiting full revelation? Subsurface surveys, including ground-penetrating radar conducted in the late 20th century, have revealed anomalies beneath the Sphinx. Hollow spaces, unexplained voids, distinct fissures within the bedrock, some likely natural, others suggesting deliberate construction. One known shaft descends vertically from the Sphinx's back, first documented in the 1800s and later sealed for safety. Another cavity sits near the monument's front paws, close to the enigmatic dream stele, erected by Pharaoh Thutmose IV, who claimed a divine vision led him to restore the Sphinx from centuries of desert burial. What were these shafts for? Maintenance tunnels? Looters' routes? Later additions by priests? Or are they remnants of something older, clues to an original design now lost to history? Conventional wisdom and its gaps, mainstream Egyptology remains cautious. The accepted view holds that the Sphinx was carved during the reign of Khafra, around 2500 BCE, as a guardian of his pyramid complex. The voids beneath are seen as either natural features or the result of later activity, New Kingdom alterations, Roman interventions, or simple erosion. But not all are convinced. Some researchers point to the Sphinx's erosion patterns, deep vertical fissures and smooth, rounded contours, suggesting damage not from sand and wind, but from prolonged water exposure. This raises a startling possibility. Could the Sphinx be thousands of years older than currently believed? If the Sphinx predates the reign of Khafra, possibly to the end of the last ice age, over 10,000 years ago, then the tunnels beneath might not be accidental. They might be integral parts of a long-lost design, the last remnants of a forgotten civilization overwritten by dynastic Egypt. The Hall of Records. Adding to the intrigue is a legend passed down through mystics and fringe theorists. The existence of a Hall of Records, a vast underground archive said to preserve the wisdom of a lost age. Hidden beneath the Sphinx, this mythical library is said to await a future time of awakening. Popularized by 20th century mystics, the idea has little traction in academic circles. Yet it endures because the Sphinx, battered and inscrutable, seems to invite such dreams. Modern excavations at the Sphinx have been limited and strictly controlled. While some subsurface anomalies have been explored, others remain untouched, sealed beneath regulations and beneath stone. Whether they hold artifacts, architectural marvels, or nothing at all remains unknown. An ancient puzzle, still unsolved. What we do know is that the Sphinx has been restored repeatedly over its long life. Inscriptions speak of major renovations during the New Kingdom and later during Roman and Islamic periods. Even in antiquity, the Sphinx was already considered ancient. Its meaning shifted with each era. Pharaohs, priests, pilgrims, all projecting their own beliefs onto its enduring form. And so it remains today. The Lost Temple of Khufu and the silent omissions of the ancient king lists our journey, carries us once more to the heart of the Giza Plateau, to a mystery hidden not in what has survived, but in what has vanished, standing beneath the shadow of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the largest and most enduring of Egypt's ancient monuments. One cannot help but feel the enormity of human ambition made stone. Its massive blocks, some weighing over 50 tons, are fitted with a precision that defies the tools and methods we confidently attribute to its builders. Its perfect alignment to the cardinal points, its astonishing symmetry, its silent defiance of time, all speak to a project far greater than mere mortal pride. And yet, curiously, a crucial part of this monumental complex is missing. Ancient sources and modern archaeology both confirm that Khufu's pyramid was once part of a larger ceremonial landscape, a royal necropolis designed to serve the pharaoh not only in death, but in his journey through the afterlife. This landscape included mortuary temples, causeways, satellite pyramids, boat pits, and a valley temple that connected the whole to the living world along the banks of the Nile today. Fragments of Khufu's mortuary temple survive: shattered basalt flooring, scattered foundations worn by centuries of quarrying and erosion. But the larger valley temple, the grand structure that once received the body of the dead king before his final ascent to the pyramid, has never been conclusively found. How could such a critical component of Egypt's most iconic royal complex simply disappear? The mortuary and valley temples were essential parts of pyramid construction. During the Old Kingdom, they served as the ritual heart of the complex, place where offerings were made, ceremonies conducted, and where the king's eternal connection to the divine was renewed. In Khafra's pyramid complex, immediately adjacent to Khufu's, these elements still stand: the great causeway, the valley temple, and the Sphinx, all woven together into a grand design. By contrast, Khufu's valley temple remains elusive: no standing walls, no inscriptions, only faint traces and lingering questions. One explanation lies in the ravages of time. Over the centuries, the Giza Plateau has been plundered for building material. Entire layers of casing stones, once polished to a mirror finish, were stripped away to construct medieval Cairo temples, and Tombs alike were dismantled, their stones reused, or lost. The Valley Temple, if built close to the original Nile floodplain, as theorized, may have been particularly vulnerable, damaged by centuries of inundations, buried under sediment, or dismantled long before. Careful records were kept. In 1930, archaeologist George Reiner proposed that a field of large limestone blocks found east of the Great Pyramid might represent the remains of Khufu's Valley. Temple excavations in the 20th and 21st centuries have uncovered further hints: foundation trenches, fragments of granite paving, but no complete plan, no full reconstruction of the temple's grandeur. Was Khufu's Valley Temple simpler than those of his successors? Was it swallowed by the shifting landscape of the Nile, dismantled beyond recognition by later generations, or never completed at all? There are alternative theories as well. Some suggest that Khufu's Valley Temple was once connected to the now vanished structures surrounding the Sphinx. If true, it would mean that the architectural vision of Khufu's reign extended far beyond what is immediately visible, encompassing a sacred landscape whose full meaning remains hidden beneath layers of sand and time. Others propose that the original Valley Temple was replaced or transformed during later dynasties, its original purpose lost as new rulers reinterpreted the sacred spaces of Giza to suit their own beliefs and needs. And still others wonder whether the temple was destroyed intentionally as dynasties rose and fell, and political and religious tides shifted. Monuments associated with older rulers were sometimes defaced, dismantled, or repurposed. Could Khufu's Valley Temple have been a casualty of these ancient struggles over memory and meaning? The very absence of the temple opens window into Egypt's long and complicated relationship with its own past, a past both revered and at times rewritten today. Standing at the foot of the Great Pyramid, the desert wind carries whispers from the unseen. We know the pyramid was not meant to stand alone. It was part of a living, breathing ritual landscape, a theater for sacred rites now lost to history. Without the Valley Temple, we are missing a key chapter in the story of how Khufu imagined his eternal life, how the priests and people of Egypt once honored the divine king who ruled not just a nation, but the cosmic order itself. We are left with a handful of broken stones, vague traces in the earth, and the weight of a colossal absence. And so we are left to wonder what rites were once performed along the vanished walls of Khufu's temple, what prayers were spoken, what offerings given, what secrets sealed behind its now erased threshold. Was the temple simply lost to time like so many relics of the ancient world? Or does it lie still hidden, buried under the modern city, or under the very sands that for millennia have guarded Egypt's most enduring mysteries? The Great Pyramid endures silent, immutable, but the lost temple at its feet reminds us that even in the face of eternity, memory can be fragile, and that some of Egypt's greatest secrets are not found in what survives, but in what is missing. The elusive ruler of Amarna. Unraveling the mystery of Smenkhare. Beneath the silent presence of the Queen's pyramids, another mystery stirs, one not rooted in stone, but in a phantom of history. This enigma is not a monument, but a fleeting monarch, a shadowy figure who briefly ascended the throne of Egypt only to disappear, leaving behind a trail of ambiguity. His name was Smenkhare, or at least that is how a scattering of inscriptions refer to him. His legacy flickers faintly through the final chapters of the Amarna era, a period already clouded by turmoil, transformation, and the collapse of royal certainties. In the fading light between Akhenaten's radical revolution and the traditional revival under Tutankhamun, Smenkhare emerges and vanishes. Amidst the remnants of Amarna, in shattered tombs and half-erased texts, fragments of this lost ruler's stories surface. A few carvings depict a figure crowned with the dual diadem of Upper and Lower Egypt. Some inscriptions allude to a co-regent sharing power with Akhenaten. Artifacts, scarabs, seals, bear the name Enkhperur Smenkhare Djeser Khperu, linking this person, male or female, to Egypt's royal lineage. But who was this elusive Smenkhare? And what part did they play during one of the most unsettled periods in Egyptian history? The prevailing theory identifies Smenkhare as a male, possibly Akhenaten's younger sibling or close kin. Some researchers believe he ruled alongside Akhenaten during the final years of his reign, a stabilizing force amid the chaos of religious upheaval. After Akhenaten's death, Smenkhare may have briefly ruled alone, acting as a transitional figure before Tutankhamun's ascent restored tradition. However, this narrative is fraught with problems. Evidence for Smenkhare's existence is astonishingly sparse. No confirmed tomb, no unmistakable mummy, no surviving monuments that unequivocally declare his name or titles have been found. Much of what we know comes from hastily altered inscriptions or objects reworked during a time of political instability. Even Smenkhare's gender is still debated. Some Egyptologists argue that Enkhpuru, a royal name from this period, belonged not to a male successor, but to Queen Nefertiti, who may have assumed a pharaonic identity to preserve power after her husband's death. In this interpretation, Smenkhare was not a new male king, but Nefertiti herself transformed, much like Hatshepsut centuries earlier, a queen ruling as king, complete with regalia and masculine titles to legitimize her authority. Other scholars remain unconvinced. Some suggest Smenkhare may have been Akhenaten's son by a secondary wife, or even his son-in-law, possibly married to Princess Meritaten. Still others believe Smenkhare was a puppet, placed on the throne by factions eager to dismantle Akhenaten's religious legacy without igniting outright rebellion. Then there are more unconventional ideas. Could Smenkhare have embodied both genders, symbolizing the fluidity of identity during the Amarna period's experimental phase? Was this pharaoh not one person at all, but a ceremonial title passed between individuals to maintain dynastic continuity in a collapsing regime? Further intrigue surrounds the discovery of a battered mummy in Tomb KV55 in the Valley of the Kings. Once thought to be Smenkhare, DNA studies suggest it belonged to a close male relative of Tutankhamun who died young. Some say it's Akhenaten himself. Others believe it could be the mysterious Smenkhare, a theory that, while alluring, remains unproven. Complicating matters further is the deliberate erasure of Amarna history. Successive rulers, seeking to sever ties with Akhenaten's heresy, destroyed inscriptions, defaced monuments, and erased names. Smenkhare may have become collateral damage in this campaign, his brief reign deliberately obscured not by time, but by calculated political revision. Today, as one stands among Amarna's ruins, it is easy to sense the instability that once gripped the land, a royal household splintered by illness, ideology, and death, a society caught between devotion to ancient deities and the radical monotheism of Aten. And within this turmoil, a fleeting figure, or perhaps several, struggled to hold the kingdom together. The enigma of Smenkhare mirrors the fragility of power in ancient Egypt. Even the most formidable dynasties, even rulers draped in divine status, were vulnerable to the tides of disease, descent, and historical erasure. As archaeologists sift through shattered murals, recarved cartouches, and cryptic artifacts from the twilight of the 18th dynasty, we are left with only questions. Who was Smenkhare? A forgotten prince? A queen in disguise? A manipulated figurehead? Or something more symbolic? An avatar of Egypt's deepest tensions and unanswered prayers? The desert holds its secrets tightly. And for now, Smenkhare remains a phantom monarch, crowned yet faceless, glimpsed only through the fractured mirror of a past lost to both time and intent.